All right, welcome back. So as you see, price reflects better than on eBay. And it's definitely cheaper to replace them than it is to repair them. So we'll show you the damage, we'll show you what's going on. All right, so here's the pile of parts that are no good, everything that are broken. So we've got another replacement that we just paid for at the local shop, like I said, support local businesses because they are cheaper than the internet. So, you know, when it comes to, you know, servos being damaged, you know, the receiver's still good, the radio's still good, which we can go ahead and throw it into the infraction that we have. Now we'll have a better radio system on our infraction. And then have the spare control arms and front bumper and whatever else we salvaged from this. We'll be able to have it for the 2 Vendettas. So we are replacing it. So we'll see you back at home at the unboxing. Be right back. All right, got everything loaded up here. All the damaged parts. So all these parts versus buying a new one, there's $100 difference. $100, and I can just replace the RC and then use the rest of the parts as backup parts. So we're gonna get home. I'm gonna show you guys how I mod these things to do the over 100 miles an hour, what you need to do out of the box. I've showed this before, but I'm gonna put in the ESC, I'm gonna make the gear swap, I'm gonna modify the body. I'll show you how we get to that 115 mile an hour run. Be right back. All right, welcome back. So we're back at the house, and as you can see, there's the pile of good parts, over there's the pile of bad parts, and it's about a 50-50 mix, because I got to save the electronics and the radio, and that makes up for the body and the servo that failed during that crash. So we're gonna get this thing unwrapped. I'm gonna show you what modifications you need to make. Like I said before, and I'll keep saying it with these lower end line, like the 3S Arrma. Sometimes you just gotta get to the point where, you know, if the crash was a little less in damage and I could have got away with, you know, $150 in damage, if the servo didn't fail, I think that was one of the big expenses, and if I could have saved the body, it might have been worth fixing that RC. But because those two pieces are expensive, it's just not worth it. So there is a modification we're gonna have to do to this body, and I've showed this before, and I will save some stuff off this body, but right here you see the screw that I got with the washer holding this down. If you don't bolt this down immediately, this will flap and then it'll rip the edges off. This one ripped here and here, or one side was halfway ripped, and I ended up shoe gluing both sides and drywall taping from the bottom on both corners to make it rigid enough. So we're gonna go ahead and get this screw out, will be the first thing I'm gonna do. I'm sure I could just pick up another screw. I got tons of them, but this is just easier. So I've got the nut I put on the back side and the screw. We're gonna go ahead and drill a hole right in here. So this is the first mod I suggest everybody do when it comes to Vendetta. Even if you're not going to gear up, And this is the big wing. I'm gonna have to put the small wing on because I don't use that much downforce in the back. So in this bag comes the speed pinion. This is the pinion we're gonna use on our gearing. So I took this speed pinion out, put it in with the motor. So take out the one screw, pull the strap away. Come on. There we go. Make sure that stays on, the O-ring stays on to hold the bearing. And I'm going to go ahead and unplug this thing. I'm going to go ahead and take the receiver out because we're relocating this receiver, or we're replacing it. Three screws, and we're going to take the lid off the receiver box. Because it's wrapped up in it. That's the fan wire extension. I'm going to take our ESC, we're going to plug that in to the throttle. That should be the throttle port. The other thing that I keep telling everybody to do is to get your antenna tube out, because half the antenna is inside that box. So we're going to pop out the antenna, pop off the cap, take the antenna tube off. There is so much antenna wire that's wrapped inside this box. There's just too much antenna wire in there, and for range we need everything we can get out of it. So we're going to stuff everything we can back in. We're still going to use the antenna tube, but now we got a lot more antenna sticking out. And that's going to give you the range that you need to do these 100-mile-an-hour runs. Because this radio is a pretty good radio, and it's got a 6200 receiver in there. That's a $95 receiver, just the receiver plus the radio. So that's over $100 for the radio and receiver. And that was another decision that I made when it came to replacing this RC, because paying $260 for parts that I damaged, when I can get another RC literally for a lot cheaper, for $100 more, it definitely is worth the investment. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to close up the receiver box so that I can mount this thing on top. So I'm trying to stuff as much wire as I can inside the box. Then we're going to stick the lid back on the box. So I'm using the outer screw to hold down my receiver. So that's going to hold my receiver in place. And then this on and off switch, that's probably why I was missing one of the bolts to the steering servo, because I take one of the bolts with the washer. So one of the receiver bolts is going to be our on and off switch. So the one closest to the ESC or receiver box is what's going to become the bolt that holds down our switch. So like that we can still get to that switch to power it on and off. And then motor. So you're going to crack this open, put your gearing into it, close it back up. I'm not going to do that for video purposes real quick because we got one that's good right here. So I'm going to just pop this one back in because this one's got the speed pinion in it. And we've already gone 115 with this gearing, so I think we can do 120 with it. And we're going to put our red thing back in for now. That's a this 6S ESC is out of my felony. In felony, infraction, Creighton, the ready to run Creightons, they all use the same ESC. So we're going to put this back together. And I believe orange went to yellow, yellow went to orange, and blue went to blue. And then for your fan wiring, you just plug your fan wiring straight into the motor fan. Like that. So this ESC has the fan wiring goes right into the receiver, so you don't need that extension. And then I'll probably add these after, but these are limitless straps. So now we'll get our drive shaft back in. Whatever I did with that thing. Here it is right here. O-ring right up to it. So there you go. Now some people were saying add another one of these holders up here. You can't because it's not as thick over here, and it hits the receiver box. Right in here is where I'm having a problem, where this thing starts wobbling and it literally hits these washers to the steering servo right in here. It'll leave a line there and a line there. So we just can't add support here. Now with the Hot Racing one, they're saying add it over here. Hot Racing has the same issue. this is a long shaft, which I could, but it would be right into this, and the fail point is back here on the hot racing shaft. So it's just failing at a different point. So once we do that, this is downforce that I don't need. I showed this before, that we remove the added downforce back here, because this is going to push the rear end down at the higher speeds, and then the tire is going to rub. And then on our rear shocks, you got to crank the shocks all the way up. So that'll be the next thing I do. I'll crank up the rear all the way down. I also got to stick the fuel tubing at the bottom of it, which I can show you because I have them off. You're going to stick that fuel tubing. As you see, it's almost the whole shaft. I just leave a little bit showing, because that's fully extended. I leave about the thickness of this screwdriver, just so I can slip in this bottom support and blocker. You need that distance to get it in there. So we're going to take off all these fuel tubings that I made, and we're going to go ahead and stick them in there. But there you go. I'm going to finish getting this thing ready, and then what I'm going to do with the other receiver is it's going to go into my infraction. The infraction came with a terrible radio and a terrible receiver. So I'm going to just take this box, throw it into there. I'm going to take this motor mount, I'm going to throw it into there, because that one's still got the plastic motor mount in it. And we're going to take that infraction over there and do a complete stock system using the ESC and everything that I just took out of. So this whole system is going to go into my infraction. I'm going to take the capsule system out of there. But that's another reason I decided to go ahead and pick up a whole new Vendetta, is because I could really use the system out of this for the 3S infraction I got over there. And then we're going to take the tires off of the Vendetta, because these are soft, and we're going to throw them on that infraction, and then we're going to run that infraction with speed gearing in it, and that thing should be somewhere around 70 miles an hour, which I think is plenty. And then I have the silver hoons that we're going to keep running on that thing. We're going to keep gearing that thing up and see how fast I can get that infraction to go with an infraction body. But there we go. Hopefully this helps some people out there. Just wanted to let you guys know, for what I paid for this Vendetta, under $400 out the door at my local hobby shop, versus $250, $240 into parts, because I didn't have all the parts on my list. I still needed a few other things. And I got a new radio. I got the, a new controller. I got new electronics that honestly worth $100 to me just in the electronics. But it's a choice you guys will have to make. Let me know if I made the right decision. I believe I did. Buying a whole new one, it's going to get this RC out there quicker. It's going to have no damage to the body, where the other one's damaged pretty bad. Aerodynamics, because of the crashing and the testing I've done in the past, is already suffered, and we already got the new wing and everything. So I wonder where the new flat wing is. So I got to get this wing put onto this body, and then we'll get it down. And of course, the new radio. I see in the comments a lot of guys were like, Yep, just cheaper to replace it with that amount of damage. Most people didn't think it was going to suffer that bad. Most of my other crashes, they looked worse, but because this was head on into a curb, it wasn't even head on. It was at a 45 when it hit the curb. It crushed right in this corner. But it's not the first time I hit a curb. I hit a curb a couple of times on this corner. But there we go. Like, comment, subscribe. New Vendetta 6S. Hopefully you guys know my modifications. I do have a whole playlist from start to finish of totaling that RC. And of course the yellow one. But go check it out. It's in the playlist. Shows you how I set it up, what I did, and why I made the changes that I made. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you guys on my next video. Let's get out there and hit that 120. Oh, had a blowout. Read 113. Curb. So that was 102 and just hit half trigger. Light pull. Hear that noise? Lost control. Lost control. Read. So at 91 I lost control. It blew it sideways.